the UIL announcement comes out, TAPS changes its announcement, TCAF has it, and then counties start handing down orders. I guess what is the big picture statewide for high school football in Texas right now?
The big picture statewide for Texas high school football is a mess. Right now, you've got a lot of different organizations and a lot of different entities going in a variety of different directions, and it's going to be hard to sort. Basically, here's the bottom line of it. There are going to be different schools that have very different high school football experiences in the fall. There's just no two ways about it. That Temple is going to have a very different experience than Mart is going to have a very different experience from Houston Worthing is going to have a very different experience from Wink. It's going to be very different for everybody. There are going to be teams that are going to show up and they're only going to play 6 games. There are going to be teams that literally do not field a varsity team in 2020. Basically, because we're all navigating all of these different orders, these different, kind of forces tugging from a variety of different directions, it's just going to be a mess. We're going to yearn for the days in which it was easy. Friday night would roll around. You have this slate of 40 games in your local area, and those are the games you're paying attention to. That is not going to be the case in 2020. You're going to have to kind of get out your slide rule and figure things out throughout the course of the season, simply because the public health crisis mandates it, and the variety of different forces that are dictating what Texas high school football is going to look like. They're kind of pulling in different directions.
50% capacity. Do you think that number holds? Do you think it gets increased, or do you think it gets reduced at some point?
Right now, my guess would be that 50% is going to be the norm for the majority of the 2020 Texas high school football season. Obviously, look, we're all rooting against the virus. Thumbs down the coronavirus. But I will tell you that unless the situation were to improve drastically in the state of Texas, I think that the UIL is happy to cap it at 50%. They've got some very strict guidelines about distancing and wearing masks, things like that. And look, you're also going to see localities limit that even further. I think that if, for example, a team in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex plays, I would bet that it is less than 50% that they're allowed to have. Some may have, in fact, 0. But I would say that for now, my guess is that 50% capacity is what you can expect for the majority of the 2020 Texas high school football season. God willing and the creek don't rise, that things get better around the state of Texas. But I think half capacity is probably what we're looking at.
You look at a bunch of counties around the state. You've got the Austin Public Health District, all the counties in the Valley. We've got a county here in our area that are saying you cannot practice until Labor Day, regardless of what the UIL or TAP says. Is there a chance that we get to August 3rd and we don't start practice that day?
I think there's a real chance that a lot of schools that the UIL will let start playing or start practicing on August 3rd don't start practicing on August 3rd. I think that you look around just based on the orders, it's an inevitability that teams in Dallas County, that teams in McLennan County, teams in the Rio Grande Valley, in Houston and El Paso, in some of these pockets around the state that are really, really feeling the brunt of COVID-19 right now, that they are not going to be able to start practice on August 3rd. And that's going to put a lot of them behind the 8 ball. There are going to be situations in which teams are lining up to play their first game of the year, and they're going up against a team that maybe has already played 4 games. That is a real possibility, I think, that because of the changing circumstances and the imbalanced way in which the coronavirus is presently kind of making its way across Texas, because of that, you're going to have a lot of schools that are not going to be able to practice. And furthermore, in some areas, you're going to have schools that are not going to be able to field teams, that basically maybe the local orders don't let them start practicing until late September. If that's the case, then in many ways, there's just no reason for them to suit up and to only play 3 games. The one thing I would kind of drive people to pay attention to, and it's a boring part of my job and it's a boring part of other people's jobs that kind of cover Texas high school football, but it's really important this year, is going to be district executive committees. These are the organizations comprised of the administrators within their own football or athletic district, UIL district, that make a lot of the local decisions. They're going to have some big decisions to make. Does district play look like if there is in fact a truncated season? If there's one team that's not able to play, how do they handle that? Furthermore, another big question that we're going to have moving forward is, what do forfeitures look like? Look, nobody's rooting for it, but it's a statistical inevitability that there are going to be teams that are going to forfeit games because they have an outbreak on their team. It's sad to say, but it's the truth. What happens then? Does that count as a forfeit? Does that count as a no contest? Does that count? How does that factor into the playoff race? A lot of things are going to be decided on that district level, which we usually only pay attention to whenever the playoffs get really close and we start thinking about their tiebreakers. That's basically the only time we think about them, or if there's an eligibility question. This is going to be really, really important decisions made at the local level as far as UIL districts are concerned.
Okay. When it comes to big picture in the state, before I ask that, let me ask one more before I ask you if there's anything else you want to talk about on that front. Do you think we get a full with what's allotted right now with the UIL? Do you think we will play 1A through 4A state titles in mid-December and 1A and 5A, 6A state titles in mid-January? Do you think we get the full season as it's allotted on today, July 24th?
Now, the question I've gotten a lot is, are we going to see a full 2020 Texas high school football season as scheduled? And the best answer I have for you is I don't know. And I don't think anybody really knows. It's sad to say, but the virus is going to dictate whether or not we do that. If the virus is raging across the state of Texas, you're going to see teams shut it down and schools shut down and not be able to field a team on a Friday night. Obviously, there are bigger things in the world than Texas high school football. I know how strange that is to hear me say that, but it's the truth. And I think the reality is that Texas high school football in 2020, like everything else, is going to require people to be nimble. And I think it's going to require people to give some grace to decision makers who are going to have to make some very, very difficult decisions in the name of safety and in the name of making sure that we can all get through this.
Okay. Is there anything you would add on the big picture in the state right now with where we're at 10 days before we're supposed to start practicing?
I think one thing to keep in mind is when the decision came down from the UIL, the overwhelming reaction that I heard from coaches was a sense of relief that, okay, the season's not canceled. The season's not going to be moved to the spring. And look, it's going to be easy for us to pick apart the UIL decision. It's going to be easy for us to pick apart the county orders or local health officials or things like that. But right now, I think that what we're going to go through is a very strange 2020 Texas high school football season. There's no way around it. We don't know how strange it will get, but we know it will be different than years past. I would hope that fans would be a little bit nimble and a little bit show a little bit of grace to people, because it is going to be different and it's going to be odd. But hopefully we're able to get some football in the fall, and hopefully, most importantly, everybody can stay safe.